Okay, so here we are on another turn of Warrior Knights, and it's getting close to the end. I'm not sure that we're there yet. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. I mean, we're certainly not there yet. There's 11 influence left, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So there's more than 11 cities held, which to me means this is going to be the turn where the king is selected. And then after that, we bring these, and I fished them out because I'm going to need them now. The king's army, which the king gets sort of a free bonus. The king also gets that additional influence each turn. So whoever has the most of this influence is going to be walking into something of an advantage. Now, right now, we got 6, 7, garbage, 7, 6, and 9. Purple's in the lead right now, and they're attracting some attention already, where green and blue have taken to dismantling their holdings that were near them, and black and yellow have kind of come to a peace in order to handle that. That's more to do with purple's ability to generate cash than anything else. Shuffled the decks after selecting. Take a look here. We see a lot of people have put down cards in the wages side of things, which means it's very, very likely we're one away. First person who does a draft troops will trigger off a wage paying action. Now, there's some people who don't really mind that much, but nobody likes it, right? Someone like red or green would probably be willing to trigger that early. Other people might be stacking the deck in this first area with taxation cards. So we may actually see a tax round before that gets played, depending on how big a deal it is and how much color the people who have money want to force the issue. All right, well, we'll get started. And wouldn't you know it, not much happened. The blue took, they finished their siege at Rokzak, taking that from purple. And then the next move, purple actually triggered off a wage increase, placing one of their mercenary markers. Only a couple players were really disastrously affected. Yellow was hit hard, and they had no money. So all they have left is their regular troops. One of their guys with a job, the master of the royal stables, has been dismissed from his army. I believe he actually loses this at this point. So, I mean, it just abandoned him. So he may want to come back in and replace this guy since he has certain advantages there. Not only does he not pay for wages, and you could say, whoa, why did he lose? Well, because the regulars couldn't be paid, so all the mercenaries had to defect, and we get a pile there. Purple actually lost one of their mercenaries, but this was part of their plan. They're reducing the amount that they've got in this overseas location, and they can siege another city still. They still have 100, 200, 350, 550, enough strength to go to Constantinople even, and take that through siege mechanism. And keep building up their overseas base, because that's what they see as being their strength. They've also made, by draining their treasury, their stronghold, less of a target. Someone else might attack that just to get half their gold. That's not going to happen now. Everyone else, some people may have paid too much, but everyone else kind of survived the round without losing troops. I've got to shuffle the troops in and then redistribute these when we get going on with the round. Well, we've pushed a little further on. Black has taken Turan through a battle. They took a casualty in it, but yellow has laid siege to the big city here of Lens. And then we had an event come up. A flood. The river can't be crossed for the remainder of this turn. The bridges go away, essentially. And on top of that, Blue had to pay a faith because they have a city next to the river that doesn't have a leader with it. And they would lose the city otherwise. Well, we've pushed on quite a bit, and we see that both the assembly and the taxation are near ready to boil over. Obviously, the wages we already just paid. We're almost at the bottom of the second deck, and I'm just flipping this over and seeing the purple mobilized forces. Now, this is kind of a weird choice because purple has their one big army. This is the only one they're going to be able to fight green with. As far as I can tell, this guy's just not very potent. Now, if he went in here, that would be That would be 150 additional troops, which would bring him to 350 base troops there. Whereas he has 350 as well. He could prevent the siege from happening. He might lose the battle, he might win the battle. But here's the problem. If I play the mobilized forces to move this, then I may only have put one in the deck with the intention of capturing things. If I look here, I see I have a mobilized forces. I also have another versatile strategy in the deck, which I should be able to get before green can capture this. Green's already been activated. Ah, jeez. See, I don't have them marked as activated. I'm assuming that I screwed up, but I'm not positive of that, and I can't look back. I had a situation like that with yellow where they took this, and I'm pretty sure that they moved there this turn, but if I don't flip the cards, I can't remember. And that's kind of a pain in the butt with these pulsed systems like this. I think Twilight Imperium's little counters work better towards identifying, but still, it's a mechanical action you have to take. I'm assuming green has that siege underway, and they can take it still. However, I think this is a more valuable move. I would rather own Constantinople than this anyway. So I'm going to play that. I'm going to remember to flip my counter card. It's these little actions that are hard for me. I mean, it would be easy for me to tip the guy on the board, which I was trying, or to flip a counter or something. Okay, and now he gets to choose where he wants to do this. Now, does he want the assembly to fire off? Not terribly. He's going to put it in the wages card. That means he's less likely to get this back for next turn, though. He's willing to live with that. He's got a couple of cards in the wages pile already, so he's becoming more committed there. All right, onward. So the taxation phase took place. Purple got a versatile action so they can move in and defend their territory. Whether I cheated it or not, they're not going to be excluded from that option. And I think I did cheat. And I think I cheated with the yellow player as well. But taxation came. Most people got a lot of money. Now we're seeing one of the errors of my way was to go after the small cities first. That doesn't make sense. You got enough forces to take some of those bigger cities through the siege mechanism, and they make big money, and they're easier to defend, and it takes less nobles to keep them from revolting. So I think your goal early on is not to worry about the little cities. The little cities generate lots and lots proportionally of influence, which is what you need to win the game, but you need money more early on. And I think most of my players made mistakes by going after smaller cities when they should have aimed for the bigger ones. Now we hit the assembly phase, and we have a private motion, and this time I'm going to do it right. I picked a card. Looks like it's going to be a yellow private motion, and that just goes on the bottom of the deck. This gets reshuffled every now and then through the uncertain times card. Otherwise, though, it's not that big a deal, except if you're using a lot of battle cards or something, they get kind of this flow of, oh, there's a pile of victories together here, you know. So the shuffling definitely helps a little bit, but it's not too big a deal that it's a small deck that's constantly being drawn from. Okay, so we've got the private motion, and we've got two other things. A good job, the Lord Great Seneschal with 150 maintained troops, and then there's banned from office charge, which is applied to a baron to prevent them from ever becoming the chairman or the church patriarch, or whatever you want to call it. Okay, so let's try to see what those private motions are allowed to be. Rescind a ban on a baron who's currently banned from the assembly. Discard a law, charge, or office currently in effect. To postpone the assembly or vote on an agenda in the discard pile. Well, yellow wants to dispose with the bailout the currency option. Thinks it's going to cause people too easy a way to victory by just sitting back, and that's kind of his argument here. I don't know how the voting is going to go on that, but that gets handled first, and then the other two will get dealt with. I'll come back after the votes are tallied. Well, the private motion barely passed, and that went away. It's kind of weird because blue already has that benefit, but only once a turn. But I mean, come on, you can't pay more than $10 a turn, probably. And they have it at $5 rather than 10. Basically, purple had two votes that they threw in against the private motion. Black and green ended up voting in favor of it. This is all secret, of course, and red broke the tie. Then the next thing was the ban from office, which got put on purple, who now has spent all their votes. And again, a couple people voted for that. Nobody voted against that, and red ended up getting the leadership of the church as well as the chairmanship now, by having more faith than anyone else. And then the final one was the Lord High Seneschal, which red also picked up, and they came out of that as a big winner. A lot of votes were spent. Blue put 5 in, red put 5 in to match what blue had. I'm assuming people can keep track of each other's votes in terms of what they have. This information would be hidden during the voting round, but just before you enter the assembly, you announce how many votes you have. So it shouldn't be too hard. Now we get 3 new ones. Lord Surveyor, who comes with 200 troops. Expel certain mercenaries before deciding the agenda order. The chairman decides the nationality. If the motion is passed, all mercenaries are shuffled back into the mercenary deck of that nationality. Okay. And condottieri, you do not have to pay. This is a charge for a baron for the hiring fee for the first troop you draft during each mercenary draft. That's kind of cool. A little cheaper mercenary action. I gotta get these cards sorted out and then back to play. A little bit further in, just ended up drawing the upgrade defenses card down. Saw something that bothers me with that. Cities under siege. In this case, this one. Now that it's already a fortified city, so this isn't an issue here. But I could find nothing in the rules that prevents you from upgrading the fortifications or repairing the breaches. Seems like a part of the siege operations. It shouldn't be something reliant on those cards. So I think it should be factored into the siege already, which is to say you shouldn't be able to repair the massive amounts of damage that are indicated by a breach within the actual confines of a siege. Now we've got an interesting situation here where green could not actually activate the siege, but they've started it. Until purple drives them out, they're still in danger there, but purple doesn't have more forces in their field army, so they kind of are under siege with their field army. Green has to get more troops there, or purple has to do something to force them out somehow. Everybody chose to upgrade their cities, even though we're getting kind of late in the game, except for purple. Purple's only choice to upgrade would be Jerusalem, and they honestly don't think anybody's going to be able to deal with that. As long as they're Lord Admiral, they can get there quicker or quickly enough to respond, so that having that extra 100 points of defense doesn't make sense. And for tax value alone, I don't think the game's going to be long enough anymore. It's $4 to upgrade. You only get $1 extra per taxation. All right, we're seeing some mercenary bids going in again. To a large extent, that just kind of happens, and I don't really feel like I've got a good grasp on just how much you need in troops. We're beginning to get to the point where maybe some of the players can afford a larger army than they've been managing so far. So we'll see. And this poor Spice Islands ship hasn't been moving for whatever reason. No cards coming up. I'm wondering if I hid them in somebody's deck or something. Well, the influence pool is out, and the highest number is over at green. They have 13. We have 10 over in a couple of these, 11 for black, and only 8 for purple, actually. So green is crowned king, and a bunch of extra troops are getting assigned. He's putting them on new leaders. Now, I've already put them on the board, but that's okay, because they're not really there yet. Let me check for revolts. Let me pull these guys off. They shouldn't be on the board yet. I'll put them here so I can remember. Let me check for revolts in different cities. Let's start with red, because they're the chairman. They've got Semlik, and they've got a revolt there. They'll just pay to prevent it. Those are a bad thing. Yellow doesn't have any. Black down here at Bingen is a revolt. I'll pay that. Geds, no. They have no others. Purple has a possible revolt up in Jerusalem, which they have to pay faith for. So obviously you want faith to pay for these, because most of the other uses of faith haven't seemed terribly valuable, but preventing a revolt has been really important. Over to green. Isar has a revolt. Now green only has 1. They'll pay it for this, but they may have to start paying cash for their cities. All their cities are the same. Balin, no. And then Ravel has a revolt. Here it's going to cost them $6 to prevent the revolt. They're going to pay it. But you can see how painful a revolt actually is if you don't have the troops garrisoning your stuff. And I have not done blue yet. They have 1 city here. Yeah, and the faith can prevent that at a fairly cheap price, but green just hadn't been investing in that recently. Okay, so the game's moved into a new stage. I want to put the star up here and the triangle here. I've assigned each of them 300 troops. That's a reasonable sized army, and it serves as a garrison for what they have. Right now, green's production of points is high. They're producing 4 points per turn in influence, +1 for being king now. So if nobody does anything, they're going to win on this next turn. So one assumes that people will do things, and that becomes who else might win? Blues at 10, they produce 3. If they gain some green cities, though, they might, they're not going to gain 3 green cities, but they'll be closer. Red is unlikely to reach a lot of green cities, and they're also at that point, but purple is kind of scary. However, they're sitting at only 8 influence, which isn't a ton. Oh, speaking of which, blue has to pay 3, 4, 5 to pick up their bonus influence as Master Reveler or whatever. Anyway, I think it's going to be over in this next turn, but if green can be stopped, it looks unlikely. It looks like it'll go yet another turn. Personally, what I would rather see is the king crowned, and then the sudden death, the full victory conditions take into effect. And I'm looking at a number of things as how I would play it next time with the full expansion, which I think will add some interest to it. It's only the Fate deck that gets completely replaced. That's just the randomizer. It's to include some additional factors that need to be randomized each time. I thought it was a bigger change than it really is. It's just replacing the randomizer with more information. So that's one factor that I would definitely add to it. The special victory conditions I would change. Each character, each player would have a single card that gives them an objective. I would change that to only influencing their reaching the kingship point. And I would make the goal of the game half the cities in the kingdom, and just half the unraised cities in the kingdom, and nothing else. Because in the end, if there's a civil war of the nature that this looks like is happening in crowning a king, no matter how much influence he has, no matter how much he's accepted by a lot of people, it very seldomly results in all of the sides just laying down their arms. So it's a mixed feeling, because there really should be alliances allowed of a nature that foment winning the game directly. So for example, let's say green is the king. If he can get other players to agree to be on his side, they would win a lesser victory. They would not lose, per se, by accepting his kingship. And it would be that simple. You'd have that option. And some players, weaker players like yellow, aren't going to be able to win no matter what. They will not be able to be king. So the question for them is, do I want to join with the king, or do I want to join with the rebellion? And there's ways of doing this by giving, say, the crown has so many influence points for being, in the final run of things. And the king could agree, for example, as could other players, to give influence in exchange for their loyalty. Okay? Then what does that all mean? Well, it means if you survive the game, the king wins. It's that simple. You're the king, man. But there would be a second victory of how much influence do you have, where a powerful noble could actually win a secondary victory. So the king could be giving away some of his power in the kingdom. So you'd have multiple victories. One is being king, one is having the most influence, and I'm not sure what the others might be, maybe the most income or something like that. Just different varieties of victory that allow multiple people to win, even though the main prize may be the crown itself. Now, what you can also do for that, and what I think I'd add, is the sudden death aspect, which is once a king is crowned, you can wipe out a noble. If he's on the other side, maybe. I don't know. I tinker a lot with that kind of stuff, but certainly, if I want to keep things simple, I think I'd just add it goes on to the half the cities. If you can get half the cities, you win. I think I'd also like to keep keeping track of influence, though, and allow people to make bribes of their influence in order to go for that secondary victory. So a king who rises to having, the most influence and the most cities, as well as maintaining his crown, would win sort of a triple victory. And if you did this in over a length of different games to track things, or maybe mixed it with other metagame type information that could be used to track placement in other games, it would be of value to come in second. To me, your nobles who have been struggling for the crown are willing to usually cut deals historically, and that's what I'd like to represent in this. And I don't think it would be hard at all. All right, I'm going to load this one up, and for people who miss this, I'm probably not going to touch on that particular little diatribe in my review. So, if you've gotten this far, pat yourself on the back. You're not going to hear it again.